Ms. Theodoropoulos will make a first intervention by presenting ERUA. My name is George Tragilopoulos. I'm working as local coordinator here. Elena, the floor is yours, and I want to remind everybody that it's Elena's name day today.
Thank you, George. Welcome to all of you. We are thanking you for your presence. I'm Elena Theodoropoulos. I'm the scientific coordinator of the ERUA project on behalf of the University of the Aegean. We are very happy to meet you here in this frame. ERUA continues his work. Work Package 5 with the leading of the EU Aegean is already functions very well, and this DigiTalk, it's the first product, the first common product, because as you understand, is something co-created with not only with the University of the Aegean, but all partners and their representatives in the Work Package 5. You see that this DigiTalk is related with the bond between universities, communities, and the local communities through big societal problems like the migration and the refugees problem is. And our aim through these DigiTalks and other activities of this kind is to continue in this sense to give the meaning that this cooperation between the university and the research university and the needs of local communities and the global also communities is a very particular and a very significant one for us. So I give the floor to Professor Iossifidis in order to coordinate the DigiTalk, and I am wishing you a very good work with among us, between us. Thank you very much for your patience. Professor Iossifidis, Thodore, I'm very glad to meet you again.
Very glad to meet you, and happy name day. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
It's my turn to welcome you all to this extremely interesting today's meeting and DigiTalk. It's about the general title is creating coexistence between refugees and host communities, looking at the social and legal challenges of that. And it's a part of a series which is titled Achieving Social Change in Areas, Local Communities and Regions. We have two very topical and extremely interesting speeches today, talks. The first one, allow me to say a few words about the first talk, and then very few words, and then giving the stage to the speaker. The first one is titled Populist Narratives versus Human Stories, Migration Politics and Migrants in the European Union, the case of Bulgaria, and is given by our colleague Ildiko Otova. She's holding a PhD in political science, and she's a laureate at the Mosdar Scholarship for Excellence in Political Science Studies and Civil Courage, and currently teaches in the Department of Political Science at the New Bulgarian University. She also works as a researcher in the Center for Refugees, Migration and Ethnic Studies of New Bulgarian University, and her teaching and research interests include migration, refugees issue, integration, populism, far-right and extremism, and current forms, contemporary forms of anti-Semitism. So I don't want to speak more. I give the stage to Mrs. Otova, and we are all ears.
Thank you very much. First of all, thank you for inviting me to share with my experience. I just want to add something on my bio because actually I have this academic background and I'm teaching at the MBU, proudly presenting today here. But I have also experience in the civil sector. I'm working with several NGOs providing legal assistance to refugee, asylum seekers, and migrants. I have also this insight from the field work, and I'm really happy. Many colleagues from Greece are here today because I work with the International Rescue Committee office in Athens. We have a big advocacy project related to the violence on the external borders of the EU. So probably we could share later on this as well. But today I'll present something something different related to the populist narratives and the human story as a counter narrative to those populist narratives, taking Bulgarian case as an example. And it's true that for the last decades, migration has been one of the hot topics in Europe. There is a joke that one can lose or win elections on migration topics since decades. But it's really topical even today. This morning, I started my day with a TV show debate of the leading Bulgarian politicians for the European Parliament. So it's really the moment to speak about the way migration is presented and perceived presented by politicians and perceived by the societies in Europe. So I'll give you some feedback on the Bulgarian context because it's really important to get into it to understand exactly how in the Bulgarian society this whole story was created, and I'll give you later on why created. And there is first this background after the so-called liberation from the Ottoman Empire, when Bulgarian national idea was to integrate all the territories populated with ethnic Bulgarians, and after several wars, we had something called in our historical tradition national catastrophes and several waves of migrants, of refugees, but mainly ethnic ones. So refugees arriving are ethnic Bulgarians or other close to the Bulgarian population ethnic groups as the Armenians. And then we have this communist period when, of course, we have kind of a closed society, leaving the borders or crossing the borders in both directions. It's pretty much impossible. So leaving the state is kind of a privilege for the nomenclatura, or getting into the Bulgarian territory. It's also having kind of a political explanations, certain contracts with agreements with other communist states or states of the so-called not alliant bloc, but all those are kind of political waves of migrants. And then after 89, of course the regime was changed in a moment, and among with all the transitions we have, there is also this transition from a closed to an open society, which is also important in the understanding of why we have this understanding and dominated narrative about migration today. So this transition from closed to an open society is marked in the first years of the democratic changes, the early 90s, with a mass wave of emigration as well. Understanding the first years liberty, a newly developed, a newly recovered liberty to travel freely after the areas of the communist regime, and then pretty much in the next years transformed in more or less economic migration with different structural reasons behind it. And there is another transition, another shift in the migration history of Bulgaria, which is quite important to understand the dominant narrative. This transition from a country of emigration to a transit country on the so-called refugee Balkan route, at the external border of the EU. Regarding the policies, of course, the first years of the changes, we have this process of democratization regarding as well the asylum system policies. So trying to harmonize Bulgarian legislations with the international standards and the EU law after that. But of course, after this, Bulgaria, following the tendencies in the European Union, there is this process of securitization of migration policies, which is something typical for the European migration policy since decades now. And by securitization, I don't mean only speaking about security, but as well creating symbolic universes of rejection, because security is presented pretty much everywhere in Europe now, not only as a threat to the national security, but as well as a threat to the personal security of the human beings. And this creates a completely different image and creates really a symbolic universes of rejection in the minds of the European citizens. So this is the social context in which this whole creation of negative against migrants is created in Bulgaria. Short and limited migration experience marked with this change in the political regime and transition from closed to an open society. And something really important, typical not only for Bulgaria but as well for the all countries in the ex-Soviet bloc, Eastern and Central Europe, this mispresentation of emigration process as a national catastrophe. And this is something Ivan Christoph and Stephen Holmes also developed in one of their books, that one of the main reasons for this negative reactions in Central and Eastern Europe against migration, even though there is no migrants in reality, is due to this mispresentation of the demographic realities as a national catastrophe. So very often in Bulgarian media, we can see journal titles or media outlets coverage with expressions like Bulgaria is dying, Bulgarian nation is dying. So this sentiment of being a dying nation correlates hardly with a lot, sorry, with this presentation on the other side of the immigrant process, as well as a threat to the Bulgarian society. And of course, lack of experience with visible immigrant communities, and a process of politicization of the refugee crisis, and a mainstreaming of populism. And here I will need to say a few words about populism, which is not a classical political philosophy term, but something already dominated political sciences in the last several decades already. There is a common joke that every minute somewhere in the world someone is publishing something on populism, but on the other hand, we still don't have a common definition on what we mean by this term. There are different approaches to study populism, but in my understanding, I'll not try to explain what's populism now. I'll publish a book in the coming weeks on Bulgarian populisms, but I'm interested on the process of mainstreaming populism, and this is something happening pretty much everywhere in the Europe through different coalitions. So mainstream parties getting in coalition with extreme right parties, and normalizing in a way their presence, starting like decades ago with Haider in Austria, but having populists in power and far-right parties in power in many European states nowadays. And then through different subjects, topics, themes proposed and imposed by extreme right and nationalist parties, and migration is one of those topics, really a typical one. If I need to sum up this process, I would say in a sentence that migration policies proposed by Macron lately are Le Pen's dream come true. So this is the process of normalizing the way far right is presenting migration going pretty much everywhere and in Europe. And the third factor for mainstreaming or normalizing populism are media, and especially digital media and social media, with this also process of creating a universe of post-truth and narratives representing fake news as a truth. This is just a brief. Probably I'll go to the next slide because it's easier to see it here and to follow how actually the refugee crisis emerged in Bulgaria. And I always I say crisis, but it's not a crisis of numbers. I'll come back later on it. It's crisis of narratives, because it's true that here after 2013 till 2016 we have an increase of the applications, but you can see that pretty much quickly after that data is going, the numbers are going down, and it's getting in the normal pre-crisis levels. But actually, I'm using this quotation of Giovanna Campani, an Italian researcher. I used to work with her on several projects, and she's putting it in this sentence that it's not a crisis of numbers, but a question of narratives. And this is exactly the story in Bulgaria, because here in 2013, 2014, 15, we have pretty much a positive attitudes towards migrants and refugee seekers. There is no crisis, although there are increase in the applications. The real crisis started after 2015, after 2016. Why? Because in those moments we had several elections. I will show you after that. But this is just to go back to the real policies. The public policies in 2013, the system is in real chaos, because the refugee centers and the total reception system, the whole reception system wasn't really prepared for what's going on. But then apparently in 2015, 2016, due to the political situation in the country, several Bulgarian governments, in consequence, started to create fences. Not only the physical one, you can see the one on the Bulgarian-Turkish border, but as well symbolic fences. And here the concrete example is that before 2000, Bulgaria had integration program for refugees after 2015, and those are already 9 years we don't have an integration program for refugees. So once there are no refugees, there is an integration problem. Once then we have refugees in Rio, we have a fence, we have a real border in our reception system, not only for those crossing the physical borders of the state, but also the imaginary borders of the nation, because this is one of the reasons why migration is so sensible as a policy, as a team, because migration concerns not only the real crossing of the state borders, so concerning the sovereignty of the national state, but as well as crossing of the imaginary borders of the nation, of the society, of our group. And I'm using this idea of imaginary borders developed by Benedict Anderson years ago. So this is just something going back, because the first refugee crisis or the first rejection to this idea to receive refugees is in the late 90s with the Kosovo war. But even there, we don't have a real debate on do we want to receive to give refuge to asylum seekers from Kosovo. But this idea of no debate continues even today in a different way. Because there is no difference in the positions of the Bulgarian political parties regarding migration and asylum policies. I'm often doing this exercise with my students, giving them quotations from politicians from different parties, from the far right to the left, or what we have as a left. Let's say it that way, and they're unable to understand, to find out who's saying what, because there are no difference in their positions on the issue, which is quite interesting. But this is also due to this process of mainstreaming populism and making it a dominant way, a dominant political phenomenon on the political scene in Bulgaria. And this is something concrete, just to show you how in reality this creation of this process of politicization of the migration and the asylum subject in the political discourse actually kills the real policy making. So the politics kills, in a way, policies. In 2016, we have this idea and this decree of the government for a national strategy of integration on the local level, which is something completely normal, because actually integration policies are happening on the local level, and this is something going on in all European member states to have this kind of strategies for local integration. But in the same summer, we have presidential elections, and then snap preliminary parliamentary elections. And in this political situation, actually, there is no municipality willing to participate in this process, and to get European funds to be part of the strategy of the integration on local level. And this is a clear example how exactly political discourse can kill, in a way, a good political decision. strategy. And in the same period, we have this phenomenon of vigilante or refugee hunters, having them pretty much every day on the TV shows, on the media, making them part of the public debate, as they're like a normal part of the political and public debate. And just for 3 months, September, December 2016, there are more than 10 mobilizations against refugees. And when I'm saying mobilizations against refugees, those are in the cities, towns, and localities in Bulgaria where there is no single refugee. No single migrant. So those are real emotional reactions against migrants that, in fact, do not exist in those cities. But this is also a product of this discourse and creation of symbolic universes of rejection. So we've seen this, but here I'm going to the next slide, explaining how actually political actors, different power holders, because here I'm using power holders in the understanding of Norris and Engelhardt. Those are not just the representatives of political parties, but as well intellectuals or people presented in the media and as intellectuals or analyzers or kind of people who participate in the public debate, and also social media. And finally, there are no real politics for integrating asylum seekers and refugees, and they're entrapped in this interrelation between the negative political discourse and the impossibility of making real policies. So those are the two processes. From the one side, we have the process of mainstreaming populism. On the other side, we have the influences of the NGOs and the European institutions. And here I'm coming to the positive side of my talk, because actually the role of the NGOs and the volunteers is essential for not only creating possibilities for migrants and refugees to be integrated by providing from the first humanitarian aid to legal support, legal aid, psychological support, or even language and education, but as well in creating counter narratives to this dominant populist negative narrative about migration and refugees. Here just a remark that even today there are no language or educational support proposed by the state in the reception center. So in a way, all the integration process is outsourced to the NGOs. And this makes the system looks like it works, but actually it doesn't work, because this is not something the NGOs need to do. This is the responsibility of the state to propose integration policies. There are different actors on the field. But just about the positive narratives, because I do believe that words creates realities, especially in the social world, and those negative narratives created by the words of politicians, different power holders, and media are on the one side, but on the other side, we have our responsibility as academics or people representing the civil society to propose different kind of narratives, and this is possible through the storytelling and giving the floor to powerful examples of refugees and migrants in our societies. And here the example is from a photo exhibition we held at the MBU a few months ago, actually on March 8th, the International Women's Day, with portraits and stories of refugees. It were really impressive stories in Bulgaria. And on the photo you can see this young lady. She's called Mukadese, and she's coming from Afghanistan, and actually she's the first female pilot in the civil aviation of Afghanistan. Her story is really amazing, managing to left Kabul, and the way in the day when the Taliban arrived a few years ago on a plane to Ukraine, to Kiev at that time, and then arriving in Bulgaria as a refugee, and now she's working as an ambassador to the UNHCR. But this is according to me her story, because apart from her story, there are many other stories of amazing refugees well integrated in the Bulgarian society. This is the way to create different narratives to counter the dominant negative narrative proposed by the populist politicians dominating the political scene. And I'll stop here because I think I took too much time already. Thank you all.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Ms. Otova. This was an illuminating talk, if I may so. It raises, I think, several issues and about contemporary migration and the politics of migration. It raises, for example, the issue of discursive construction of migration as a problem. It raises the issue of the dominance of categorizations, different categorizations of people, and division between them, between us and them. The issue of power relations in every level, from the local level to the global. And of course, it reminds us how those issues are entering the public debate when they are multiple crises. This is not a new phenomenon. This is a very old phenomenon from the middle of 19th century to today's era. There are several such things that they are entering the public debate, and they divide people when they are multiple crises. The phenomenon is with us for a long time. Some people got by surprise about the populism or extreme right and stuff like that, but it's not a new phenomenon, and it's embedded, according to my opinion, in the construction of the modern nation state and the relations between nation states. I don't want to, of course, to give a talk of myself. This was a marvelous talk, and I give the stage to the audience for any questions they may have. You can raise your hands or and give you the opportunity to ask any questions you want. Please ensure that your microphones are on. Are there any questions to Mrs. Otova?
It was so boring that no one wants me to speak anymore. I get it. No, we can have questions after the second talk as well.
Yes, we can proceed in this way. We have the second talk as well, and then we have the opportunity for 10 or 15 minutes, to have some time for debate and questions. So the title of the second talk, which is an extremely interesting and a very sensitive issue as well. It is the legal and social integration of accompanied minors in Spain, and it will be given by our colleague, who I very much thank for participating and for giving this talk here today in our meeting, Lucas Perez, who has a degree in law and is a doctor of law and graduate in political science and sociology, and has a diploma in community law. He's the director of the private international law area of the ULPGS and professor at INET and guest professor at the University of Cuyo, Argentina. His research topics and interests have focused on the concept of habitual residence in European family and inheritance law, citizens' rights in European integration, the recognition of international affiliation, migration and asylum, the protection of foreign minors in the Spanish and international sphere, and in the mediation in the European Union. Of course, the bios of both Mrs. Otova and Mrs. Perez are much richer than those few words that I just expressed. But just to be time consuming in this meeting, I now with great pleasure give the stage to Mr. Perez to develop his speech.
Thank you very much, Professor Theodoros. I share the screen now. Well, for us a great pleasure to be here with you in this DigiTalk, talking about this topic so interesting for us. The first topic about narratives, the situation of Bulgarian and the route of refugees in the 2016s. And now we are going to talk in one actual topic very important for us in the Canary Island, about the social integration of unaccompanied minors that now is just in the negotiation between the local government and the national government how to manage this situation. In the program, we are going to talk a bit about the context. I think it's necessary that you will understand how is the situation now in the Canary Islands. You know that we are 1,000 kilometers from the mainland, from Cadiz, from the south of Spain, and we are 100 kilometers from Morocco. In this context, I know that we are a general public, but I think that we have to remember to put on the floor, on the table, the international legal context, the actual international legal context that this narrative, populism's narrative, as the previous speaker talked, I think that they forgot in the world they live, in the international law we live, the social context in the Canary Islands and the legal context in Spain. After that, we will talk about how they are trying to implement the two governments these reforms. It's not easy reforms. It's a reform that has to change the mind of the people of the different autonomous community, local governments in all the rest of Spain too, and the mind of the people, perhaps, that who is living here, and the policies of the governments, the national governments and the local governments. And after the conclusion of the reform and the reflections that we can do or have for Europe, and of course, I think that we have to talk only a minute, 2 minutes, about the pact of migration and asylum that the European Union has approved just the 10th of April, just no more than 1 month ago, and after the conclusions of perhaps the processes. The international legal context. It's essential to know that all the countries of the European Union have signed these different international deals that are mandatory for us, and we have to put them on the table to talk about the unaccompanied minors situations in all the European Union. Of course, it's absolutely forbidden the discrimination based in any condition of the minors, but essentially in the region. All the administrative powers, all the administrative institutions have to work for the best interest of the minor, and we have to we cannot close our eyes to the situation, to the social situation of these minors. And of course, we have the special assistance to the minors that are without their families, okay? And all the system have to give them the property education to arrive to the adult life with the competence, with the necessary competence for having a successful person in the future. This is the same to the Treaty of Function of the European Union and the Charter of the Fundamental Rights of the European Union. We have the Iberoamerican Convention here in Spain for the youth, for the rights of the youth, that is applicable to the youth between 15 and 24 years old. But after this, in the soft law, the United Nations, the Committee of the Rights of the Child, developed all this convention talking about that we have to give to the kids, to these childs and teenagers, a durable solution for the regular residents in the places where they arrive. This is absolutely mandatory for us, and it's the only way we can try that they will have a success in our societies. The same tells to us the Committee of the Rights of the Child in the Observation 6 and the Observation 20 about the access to the majority documented. We will talk about the experience of Spain, of the Canary Islands, in the last 2 years. And the same principle we have in all the documents, the international documents, that we know that we have to apply. What is the social situation in the Canary Islands? For the unaccompanied minors, children or teens or teenagers, okay, who arrive to the European Union, they arrive to Spain, a majority by the Canary Islands. In 2023, 4,000 people arrived to the Canary Islands. 3,400 from them were childs. The International Organization of Migrations talk about 1,000 people dead in this route, in the sea. Other NGOs talk about 6,000 people dead in the sea. 2 weeks ago, perhaps, we have the news about one small boat who arrived with all of them dead to South America. Okay, in 2024, there were 1,000 people arrived to the Canary Islands. About these numbers, about the unaccompanied minors, in Spain, in December of 22, this is the last data we have of the official registry of the European government, Spanish government, we have 1,400 minors, unaccompanied minors in Spain. From these 1,000, 5,000 minors are in the Canary Islands. We are the 1% of the territory, the 4% of the population, and there is the 50% of the minors who are in Spain. This is very important for the social integration of the minors. In 2023, we had 39 emergency devices. Now we have 70 emergency devices. In 1 year, we have the double. How can we manage this? Not only with the NGOs, as we have heard before. The government is absolutely mandatory, compulsory for trying to manage this in the best situation. What has done the government of Spain? The government of Spain has, the Canary Islands, has done 4,000 pre-procedures, determination procedures, 30 per day, 1,200 from them talks that we are talking about major, about adults, not about minors. The Canary government had to do 700 DNA tests because they count with people without document of the people who are the parents, but the majority, as you will see here, 600 are the parent, there is parent link. And the Ombudsman complained in the inform of 2022, in the inform of 2023 about the situation of the minors. Okay, so this means that the Canary Islands has to do a special plan for immigration and the intercultural coexistence, but two has to manage one situation, very, very difficult situation, and is trying to do some trainings initiative for minors, not only here, two in Senegal, some of them in Morocco, for giving them the necessary competence for arriving to the Canary Islands with the expect to have a job here when they arrive. The Canary Islands dedicate 10 million euros each month for organize all this situation of the 70 devices. And the state contingency is only of 25 million per year for all the country. What did the Canary Islands did for this? They have a meeting with the central government and they try to modify the regulation in the Canary Islands to gestion this situation of the minors with the custody, with the temporary custody, and with the childhood, the situation of each child. They are having a very, very difficult negotiation with 5 different ministries: the Ministry of Children and Youth, the Ministry of Welfare, the Ministry of Security, and all of them. And just they have the last meeting last Friday, and they were talking about in this meeting that they have an agreement with 3 of those 5 ministries, and they are trying to increase this agreement. I only talk a bit about the legal situation in Spain. We have an organic law, an important law that has a qualified majority for being modified, that talks about that when the minors arrive to Spain, they have the absolute immediate attention they need in the autonomous community, in the local government they arrive. Okay, and this local government has to give them all the service of education, the service of health, the service of all the needs they have, okay, for the problems. And after in the civil code, we have the guardianship that has to apply this local government, and we have a protocol for all these risk situations. But as we said, we have competence in central government and the competence in the local governments. As we have seen now, all the rules of the legislative we have to complete the international deals, the Spanish Constitution, the status of autonomy, the civil code, all the organic law we have talked, some regulations, the protocol. So this is very difficult framework of legislation to apply at the end for all the local governments and national governments, because when they arrive, the national government has the competence about security, entries, and expulsions, and the international protection, the asylum, and the general regulation of the migration. But the local government has to apply the regulation of protection, guardianship, health, and education. So, what's the justification for changing all the system of the law? We have this system for the last 10 years, for the last decade, and nobody has changed the system. Nobody knows what to do with the child, with an unaccompanied child. Nobody has the responsibility in the rest of Spain. As we will talk after this, we have an initial agreement between some of the local government of the autonomous community for trying to spread, to have the child in a better situation, but not a situation like this. This is as the Commission of Refugee in Spain has talked about, as we talked before with the Professor Otova, like a collapse of the system, no? Because the government, the NGOs cannot support of this situation. So this situation has to change. All the legal situation that we have talked, and this is a proposal for the different ministries. What does the proposal talks? We have to complete the guiding principles of the administration activity. We have to conclude that the minors has the rights of the minors has been the center of the table for everybody, okay? And the local governments of the other places of Spain have to complete to the international agreement that Spain has signed. And in the guardianship of the minors has been in a place where the minors can be well attended, okay? But the reform is possible. I think that sometimes we are talking that in migration, in this populist narrative, we are in the hell and we cannot go out of that. We are in a situation that is impossible to solve, and everybody is, from that part of the populism, is trying to tell to the people that we cannot complete our international obligation, we cannot complete this, and migration has to stop. And migration never will stop. Why? Because in Africa we have 1,500 people, but in the 2100 we will have 4,000 people. And here in Europe, everybody is moving. One of our principal freedoms is the freedom of movement, and we are talking about this. So migration never will stop. And in Spain, we did a reform of a real decree in 2021, and it's the story of a legal success, because they changed all the regulations for minors. And when the minors arrive here in 3 months, they have to begin the process of documentation. Before this, 95% of the minors arrive to the adulthood, all of them, without documents. So they become an irregular person, okay? In that moment. Now, 60–70% of them have a permission of residence, a permission of work, and they are working in the legal system. 3,000 minors, 6,000 people who were minors and they become adult without legal documents, has the possibility to have the documentation in this situation in the two last years, and they are in the normal and legal system, and there was any social problem. At the opposite, they have really social integrated, and they have less possibility to have difficulties to develop and to have difficulties for living in the society where they live. So this is possible. And there we have 2 more reforms to be adopted that are necessary. How to know if they are adults or minors, okay? Basically by the test that the medical system does. They are very slowly, and they are not in the civil judge. It's in the penal system of judge about the prosecutor. So they have to change this regulation and to the regulation of the identity card. So there are solutions that we can do. Which are the proposal of the Canary government that it is moving? Okay, now is in a different situation. It's a modification of the civil code. Don't worry about the civil code and the text, the concrete text of the Article 172. But what this article says tells is that when they arrive here, for example, we have to stop a moment. We have to talk about the terminology and the narrative. Ildiko Otova. They are talking about when they arrive to the Spanish territory illegally. The people doesn't arrive from illegally. No? The people arrive without completing the administrative law. Okay, that's right. It's only administrative law you have to complete, but they have to change the terminology, and the government of the Canary Islands have to accept that this is one of the situations. They will have a temporary custody by the government, the local government where they arrive, perhaps the Canary Islands, because we are so near from Africa, and they prefer now this route, that the route of the south of Spain, because the security in the south is in Spain of Morocco is harder than the security they have in the coast near the Canary Islands. This local government will not assume in the first moment the guardianship, but the national government we will do a system, a global system about the resources in all the local governments, in all the autonomous communities in Spain, and how is the situation in each moment, and how is the top number of minors that each community can assume, and after will do the distribution of the minors between other autonomous community, and they have to change to the protocol of the framework about the way we we manage this situation of the minor. Okay, this is the simple reform, but there is to the qualified reform. I think, like jurists like lecturing in law, that is necessary. This qualified reform is not enough. The simple reform, and now I think in the negotiation they are talking about to reform the organic law of foreigners and to include in the organic law of foreigners one management of the situation and the process, and to do the global process for the states, the NGOs and the local governments together, and only in the last moment, that is what I propose, in the last moment try to finish the system with the protection, and they have to modify to the organic law of protection of minors, talking about the guardianship of the minor in the moment of they have the final decision about the minors. This is a modification of the organic law that is qualified in Spain. We have an absolute majority in the government, in the parliament, in the central parliament. But I think that now we are in the possibility to do this because in the central government we have a government with a socialist, and here in the Canary Islands we have a government with a nationalist and popular party. So all the two big parties in the national parliament are involved in this situation, in this possibility, and I think that we have now one opportunity for trying to do these reforms. When we're talking about the simple reforms, we need to think and to change the narrative when we need to do this reform. We only need to do this situation when the system of hosting this child, okay, or system of receive this child in each of the autonomous community will be passed, and it's necessary to have this distribution of the child, but knowing all the situation, because the simple reform try to do this or talks about to do this in all the situation there is arrival about the minors. And for me, this narrative, and this DigiTalk is very interesting to talk about this. The narrative is the essential situation. We in Spain have not a migration crisis. The migration crisis is of the people who has to migrate, and is now in these small boats being in the ocean, in the Atlantic Ocean, and they don't know if they will arrive to the Canary Islands or they will be lost in the ocean. We perhaps have a receive crisis, a hosting crisis, okay, a hosting crisis, a situation where some of the autonomous communities cannot manage this situation for trying to complete their obligations, in which the best interest of the minors is necessary to be complete, and perhaps is necessary to be distributed in the other communities. Okay, so we have to talk in the reform about how the other autonomous communities are into the process, how the other autonomous communities and the NGOs can participate in this process and to find the best solution for each child, for each teenager that arrive unaccompanied to the Canary Islands or to the rest of Spain, if there's other autonomous community where they have that moment of hosting a difficult situation of crisis. And we need to apply that is mandatory solidarity and shared responsibility that we have seen that they have not applied in the Pactus of Asylum and migration, and we are going to talk in one moment only for a second, okay? And there's one that's about how to implement this situation, okay? And in qualitative reform, I think that the range of the organic law is the necessary range for the law who is going to protect to the minors. And now here in the situation in Spain, perhaps it's not the situation in your countries, we have two different competences here. The competence of migration, that is the central state, but the competence of the minors, that is of the autonomous communities. So it's necessary to do a balance between all of these competence, and I think it's only the qualified reform it will be enough or necessary accurate for this one. Perhaps it's going to finish in the Constitutional Tribunal and in the Constitutional Court of Spain. We are really more or less sure of this, because some of the autonomous communities talking that if the system will be in the law, in the central law, they will do a conflict of competence. But I think that with this system that we propose, this conflict of competence can be win for the central government. Okay? And because in the current situation, what are they before? Children of foreigners. But I think that for this situation, that we are talking about them like migrants, they are before foreigners, and migrants are children. And with the international deals that we have talked at the beginning of our speech, it's absolutely necessary to change this narrative and this mind. They are childs, and we have to protect them like childs. And we have the system, we have the situation. In Spain, we are 50 million people, and we have 10,000 children unaccompanied from other countries. So it's impossible to manage this. No, it's perfectly possible. And we have this example of success of the chain of the ERUA decree in 2021, and it was a really, really success. This is the current situation. This is what we are talking about in the beginning. In the reform of the law, we have to talk that we are not, Spain, Canary Islands, we are not in the migratory crisis, because we are not migrants. They are the migrants. We are in a foster, perhaps in a reception, a difficult situation, and we have to manage how to solve this situation with all the other autonomous communities. What does the other territory wills? What is the will of the other territory? What is the territorial wills in the European Union between the member states in this pact of asylum? We have to, this DigiTalk, for example, can help us to show the real numbers, to show the real situation, to show how we don't complete our international obligation with the migrants, in this case, the minors, and to show how we can do it. Perhaps if we see each other, I don't know, online or face-to-face in Vilna in June, we can talk about the final agreement of the government, central government, and the government of the Canary Islands. And that's why I want to do some reflection for the European Union. From where arrive the people to the European Union? To some countries, as we know. We are here in this project because we are universities, we have a situation of migrants and of borders. No? This is ERUA. This is one of the projects, one of the principal topics of our projects. And in this situation, we from our universities, from our research, for our societies, for our NGOs, we have to try to change this narrative and to show how are the real numbers in all the European Union, or in the Canary Islands, or in Spain, because some of the autonomous community in Spain has 40 minors. 40 minors. They can assume other number of minors with very normal situation and with very normal public service of health, of education, and they can be there. And it will be better for the minors. It will be better for the minors who stay here in the Canary Islands, because we will have better resources to attend their needs. And here is what we are doing at the imagine of the right in the European politician in the last years, no? And this is what we have done perhaps in the migration pacts of pact of migration of asylum. Sorry, yeah, okay. Previously, this one of the pacts. Unfortunately, perhaps the NGOs talk about the pact, the principal activity, the principal main of the countries when they have the negotiation with the parliament. The parliament has a very, very, very better position in this negotiation with the pact of migration and asylum in the first documents, but finally the pact in the final month of December of 2023, the main proposal is not arrive. Is to serve to this narrative, populist narrative that I am trying to talk that they are there, they cannot arrive, and we are going to do a legal fiction, because this is a legal fiction that they have not entry when they are in our countries, they are in our territory. No, Professor Otova, this is really a very, very hard situation, and that's why, well, I am Secretary of the European Movement in the Canary Islands. That's why it's so necessary to go to vote the 9th of June and to vote to this very narrative for the future of the Parliament, for the future of the European Commission that will go out from this vote. No? So there is not enough guarantees for the right of asylum, because we cannot treat the asylum like a group. We know that the Convention of Geneva is mandatory for us, and we have to study case by case. Okay, and this too much importance to the recognition of rate according to the nationality of the concept of safe third country, because each case is a different case. Okay? And we have to try to manage to change the way that we are going to apply this pact in the future, and to try to avoid the systematic border detentions, to try to avoid the situation that the minors can leave because the minors have not a special treaty in this pact of migration and asylum, and we have to change this narrative and to have the individualization of each situation. I'm finishing in the conclusions. I don't know if the prophecies, but for Spain, for the Canary Islands, it's absolutely necessary, this reform. We have to do this, but the people who study this, the NGOs, we don't understand how we can pass so much time in the negotiation, how the other places of Spain, the other places of the European Union, but we have to talk to the other places into Canary Island, because one of the other islands have not this mandatory solidarity with the other, can be so much time without applying this reform, and this is absolutely necessary for the autonomous community. And if the autonomous community doesn't want to do it voluntary, it's necessary that it will be mandatory by the central government to develop a system that will be used with the unaccompanied children. And we opt, like jurists, like teachers in law, for the second option of the organic law of foreigners. But I think that this is the situation that we are living now in the actual negotiation between both countries, with a better stigmatization, and of course the change the terminology, because we cannot talking about illegal persons, so illegal, even illegal situation of the person, is irregular situation, irregular administrative situation of the person. Perhaps we can try to do this, and we hope that we will have good news in no too much time about this agreement, and the unaccompanied minors will have a better ecosystem to integrate themselves in the social, in the societies where they arrive, they will be. And perhaps if we have this agreement with other autonomous communities, this can be a model for the European Commission in the future. If there is not an agreement between the countries, we know that we have this system where one country cannot assume one refugee, but they can pay 2,000 euros. But perhaps in this model is a final success for Spain, for the unaccompanied minors, we can have other money for to change the migration asylum pact, and to change the narrative, to change the mind of the people, to change the state policies. We have a very hard work on it. Thank you very much for everything. I will try to say thanks to you in all the languages of the universities of this marvelous project, ERUA. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Perez, for this very topical and detailed talk. And I just want, before giving the stage for debate and questions that may arise, I just to stay in a topic that, in a point that Professor Perez mentioned, that what we have before us, children or foreigners, and we would expand it, human beings, people or foreigners, or national, or just national subjects of different national, affiliation. I think this point and the whole of the speech of Professor Perez points to the connection, to the relation that there is between the two talks of today's meeting. I think, in my view, both talks are about different things, of course, and different cases in different countries, different areas, but they are very much linked together because they are both about, the diffused social and sometimes state-sponsored discrimination against people and the mechanisms that produce and reproduce this discrimination. And the mechanisms are those mechanisms that they are symbolic and narrative mechanisms as well, are so powerful that for the vast majority of people, these discriminations that in many cases cause deaths near us are considered absolutely normal. In the past, slavery was considered absolutely normal. Other things were considered absolutely normal. So we have to elaborate a little bit and reflect on this for contemporary era. And thank you very much for those, for inducing those thoughts to me, and I'm sure to all of our audience today. And now I'll give the stage to anyone who wants to, ask any questions for both speakers today. If there are any questions or any issues that you want to raise, please raise your hands. First.
Can I ask something for both? It's George.
Yes, of course, George.
It's something that is bothering me. Of course, it's not directly to the two topics that we have discussed, but because in this island we have other people are heavily involved in this, let's say, in a positive way, calling industry of how to make the best routes and how to facilitate all those people. It's political. It was politically of high importance and still is. I don't know if it was. I didn't manage to understand it through the presentations, but if it is not, maybe you could just give me 2 minutes through your answers by telling me the level of embodiment in the economy of immigrants or specific categories or efforts or measures or whatever this could be. We had a nice documentary. It was 2 or 3 days ago by a Greek journalist, Stelios Kouloglou, and this guy is an EMP, the European Parliament, and some others were there, that through his persistence, he has actually managed to support some of the immigrants that they were actually guiding their own vessels because they obliged them to guide their own vessels after the middle of the distance. So they were caught and they went in jail because actually they have been accused as those that they have organized the whole thing. And the only thing that they wanted to do is to save their families and of course those people that were on board. Anyway, there are many things like that which are happening. But my main question, in order not to disperse the subject, is the level of embodiment measures. If there is categories, exactly as I asked it before, if you can enlighten us a little bit. I don't know, Ildiko or Lucas, as you wish.
I can start, but actually Lucas can explain better because there is of course there's a legal difference between asylum seekers and refugees and economic migrants. And this is important to have in mind and to keep this distance between the refugees and migrants and economic migrants. And actually, this is what the international organizations such as the UNHCR, the UN High Commissioner on refugees is defending, because if everyone has the same rights, then then this will make the situation for those really needing asylum and international protection difficult.
Yeah.
So we need to keep economic migrants and asylum seekers and refugees apart and have these strict categories. I know there are different voices about this. There are many colleagues advocating on the idea that economic migrants do need to have some rights, but this is there is a way to go on this, and I prefer to have this difference for the moment, and this is because I do know that refugees and asylum seekers need to have a possibility to be protected. Let's say. Otherwise, I can give you an example from the field. Bulgaria is still a transit country, so most of the refugees are not staying in Bulgaria, or even not receiving their status in Bulgaria. And according to the Bulgarian legislation, they have the right to work after the third month being on the Bulgarian territory. So even during the procedure period, applying for asylum and waiting for the decision of the state for granting or not granting them asylum status, they do have the right to work. And actually, most of them do want to work. Actually, most of them do want to work because, those are human beings. They need to gain their lives. They need to provide food for their children, like all of us, actually. And like a few months ago, we started with the NGO I'm working with and the UNHCR, a job matching platform providing a digital space for employers on the one side, and asylum seekers and refugees seeking for job. And for the last 3 months, we have more 450 refugees registered on the platform, and more than 25 companies proposing job positions for refugees. And it's this is a huge surprise even for me, because those are not only Ukrainians. We have Afghans, Syrians, people from Northern Africa with completely different profiles, highly qualified, but as well people without diploma. And on the side of the employers, we have as well different kind of companies, and this is the big surprise for me, that they're actually Bulgarian employers open to hire refugees. So it's just a question of sometimes being positive and try to do something. Yeah, I do have this experience. And otherwise, there's in Europe, there is always this dilemma, and it's not only Bulgaria or Spain, it's also Germany and all the member states, between the securitarian logic from the one side and the demands of the labor market, because this is the reality in Europe in general. We do need labor force, and in the last months, Bulgarian government is trying to sign agreements with countries like Vietnam for labor migration agreements. But why, when we have refugees here and they do want to work?
Well, it's more organized there, get for agricultural business.
Yeah.
If I can say something in a second, I think that the system of two different situations is a system that has an answer for me at least, two very different situations in the countries. The countries has many wars, many bad situations, many persecution for other different situations, even conditions about sexual condition of anyone. So I think that the deal of Geneva is, and the other European deals that there are about the refugees as asylum, has the answer for this concrete situation, but it's not well applied now because we try to solve this increase of people, giving them the treat of a group, and this is an individual situation. But after the migrants, in the economical migrants, for me at least, the problem of the European Union is that we have the eyes closed, and we are very, very afraid perhaps about the populism and what is happening with the people, because the truth and the real numbers is that we don't have in our countries legal procedures for arriving, for economical migrants arriving to Spain or to the European Union. In Spain, you only can arrive to the European Union to work if you are a very, very high qualified person, okay? But after that, if you work in the sea, in the boats, in the sea, or in one only type of job. We need workers, as Professor Otova was talking about. We have one informed 1 month ago of the Bank of Spain. The Bank of Spain is not a communist institution, no, of the people more dangerous in the world. No, it's a institution that talks about economy, very formal. The Bank of Spain has told us that in 2050 we need 25 million migrants in Spain to work in the market, okay? In the world market, the labor market. 25 million. Nowadays we have near 7 million of migrants, of irregular migrants, and we need them. But after we have the news about the companies, that the companies doesn't find workers. We have the two news in the same system, and we have one system of worker migrants that is closed for anywhere out of the European Union. And remember, the European Union is a very different type of institutions. In this pact, the first proposal of the European Commission was not so good for the rights of all the migrants, but the proposal of the Parliament was really interesting about this, about the protection of the rights of the migrants. I was following it in all the process. But after, for finishing the European law, you know that the Parliament has to be agreed with the Council, and the Council are our countries. And our countries are very close and very in the negotiation. They were very, really near to fail the negotiation because the countries were very hard in these different situations about the control of the borders, the system of that they don't want to assume this responsibility. So the European Union is not only one, Brussels is not only one thing. Brussels is very, very different institution, very, very different views. That's why I say that when we go to vote anytime, in our countries, in the European Union, we are trying to build one type of European Union, of one type of the other one. So it's absolutely necessary that we will have all the view for talking about this, for me, two different types of migrants, but with a good and an open view for the future. The future of the European Union and the future of the rights of all the people.
This makes me feel that we are still searching European-wise concerning the filters that we want to use in order to go to the second step. And this, I would like to connect it, not to take the place from others, but I think it's quite important. I have two additional questions, but I wanted first the answer from this. Is there any relationship? Because we have Roma and Gypsies in all three countries that we're discussing now. Is there any similarity concerning the policies applied to Roma and Gypsies with the policies that applied to refugees? First is this. It can be zero, nothing, it's not related at all, or it could be some interlinks that I would be very, very much interested to know. We had 2 days ago, again 3 days ago, another meeting here. It was the first meeting on the embodiment and work of this these lovely people inside the society. And the other question in relation to this is that what is the kinds of social entrepreneurship which is missing in order to support activities like that? Embodiment, work, justice, I mean, illegality and legality, distribution of food, of services, distribution, geographical, I mean, interconnection with the inner land, all this kind of, any kind of social entrepreneurship that you think should have been developed and cannot be developed by the authorities as they are, and should be developed by the people.
Actually, I'm not an expert on the Roma people, but I see the connection on several levels, and this is firstly the way a Roma community and migrant or refugee are instrumentalized in a way by certain nationalist populist parties. So before 2013 and having the so-called refugee crisis, the main community instrumentalized by Bulgarian nationalist parties were Roma people, but this is part of the same narrative, being either primordialist, ethnocentric kind, or more welfare nationalism one on the left or on the right. But it's interesting as well in the context of the demographic situation in Bulgaria, but as well in Europe, I guess in most of our countries, because having the refugee crisis and the negative attitudes towards migrants, we have as well many pro natality campaigns as well, organized by certain conservative circles, and supported by some nationalist parties for Do It for Bulgaria, like Make Babies for Bulgaria, or those kind of slogans. But by babies, we do mean white ethnic Bulgarians, Orthodox babies, not like Roma or refugee babies. But this is as well, for example, one of the explanations why in Bulgaria and Central and Eastern Europe we have those negative reactions against the Istanbul Convention, or the so-called Istanbul Convention, the one defending the rights of victims of domestic violence, or those fake narratives about the Norwegians coming to kidnap Bulgarian children. So all this is creating a one whole narrative of protecting the dying nation that needs to be protected from foreigners and external influences. Also including external influences in some narratives, like Soros or European Union, or whatever they called it. So all those elements, including Roma community, refugees, migrants, Istanbul Convention, external influences, are creating the whole picture of the whole populist dominance of the political scene. But if Lucas wants to add something.
Yes, perhaps about the internship. I think the internship between refugees, between migrants, social communities, companies, doesn't work so bad. The number after the pandemic, after the COVID in Spain, we have a interesting growth, economic growth, and in this growth, the 50% of the new employees are employees for migrants. are people who is coming from other countries. They are here and they find these jobs where the companies are looking for it. So I think that when they are into the communities, this integration, this social possibility to live, to work, to have a normal life is working in these societies. But when you have a big number of migrants in the same places, in the same moments, and with difficulties to access to the labor market, they have problems. The migrants have problems, and the society has problems with this situation. But the society has problems with this situation not only with migrants. You have disemployed of people of that society. We have problems too with these people who it has in this disemployed. The essential word or condition of the person is not that it's foreigners. It's not that it's migrant. It's that it's not has not one way to live or to have a job, to be employed, and in this situation. And of course, we have disemployed with people from that community. You have migrants. They are disemployed. You don't have this possibility to access to the labor market. Finally, it's normal that you can no. It's statistical possible that you have tension between them. But if you work with them, if they can access to the job, if they can access to this different type of job that European Union needs, and that the company has problem to access to these workers, perhaps this the situation will be better. And in this situation, we can see examples of success that we talked in Spain with the minors in the last years, and we can spread these examples, and we can try to change the narrative step by step. It's not easy, of course, but this is our job.
If I just can add something, believe it or not, those arriving in Europe are really the ones with entrepreneurial spirit, with bringing with them, because leaving Africa or Asia or any other corner of the world and arriving in Europe demands capital, being social capital, financial capital, or even the spirit of being enough proactive and entrepreneurial. So those people are bringing with them this spirit of being active in a way. So it's more our problem that we do not use this entrepreneurial engagement that they have to promote it and to use it to construct more inclusive and coherent societies in Europe. Actually, most of the migrants and most of the people leaving their origins of residence are staying in the neighboring countries, and those neighboring countries are equally poor, unstable, and undemocratic. So those arriving in Europe are really the lucky ones, having the resources in many senses to arrive in Europe.
Thank you very much for the debate and the answers. We have a couple of more questions. First of all, by our colleague Bruna Vives, if I pronounce correct the name.
Hello, yes, Bruna Vives. Yes, thank you. I would like to thank you for the debate, and I would like to thank you, the speakers, of course, Professor Otava, Professor Perez, and the organizers. So I'm the Secretary General of ERUA, and I am very happy actually to be here. This is my first activity within ERUA, and of course in this very relevant topic. So I'm very happy, and of course to have these excellent speakers. And I would like to, I wanted to thank you, and especially I was visiting NBU a couple of weeks ago, and I think the talk by Professor Otava helped me very much in understanding the public debate around migration. This historical context was very important. Now I think I understand better this reference you made about it's a narrative crisis rather than a crisis in numbers, which I think this is very important. So this is something that really helped me. So thank you. Of course, I'm a bit more familiar with Canary Islands. I'm from Barcelona. Of course, the situation is different, but of course, I understand the dramatic situation with minors. So yeah, maybe I was just thinking how as ERUA we can help in this important topic. Of course, these debates and these awareness actions are part of what we can do as an alliance. And of course, we have the master, the joint master we want to do on the topic of migration, which is one of our flagships. And well, just I was just wondering, and probably this is something to further discuss in another place, how we can further contribute as ERUA. And of course, we have a lot of food for thought here. And just thank you again.
Thank you, Bruna. You will be very welcome to Gran Canaria. I know that you come in June, perhaps, and perhaps we can talk about this situation with the Canarian authorities too. Thank you very much.
And the other colleague is Juan Carlos Martin. And I think after this question, we have to close the meeting. And we have another one. Oh, no, it's Juan Carlos, because we exceeded our time, but it was very lively and interesting. Yes.
Well, let me present myself first. I am a professor here at the University of Las Palmas de Gran Canaria, also as Lucas. I really want to thank the speakers, very nice presentations. And I really love, the last comment of Bruna, saying that in ERUA we have to develop a master program about migration. And this is something I want to insist very much, because first, Ildiko has spoken about narratives, how the narratives create, some public opinion on probably on the minds of societies, right? Then Lucas has given us an excellent lecture about the legal aspects, and we have been speaking about the difference between asylum seekers, refugees, and economic migrants. And all the questions are around always the same issue, economics. Because everything is about, at the end, about economics, and there are economists that at the beginning of the 20th century, they were full advocates of saying just to of course we didn't have the Geneva Convention law and all that aspect that I know that they are really important, but this at the beginning of the 19th century we were living, of course, in a period when migration was very important just for the development of the countries, especially the United States, and all that. But they wanted just to create the right to go wherever you want, right? So let's imagine for a minute that this can be the situation. Of course, I know I'm not naive, and I know it's very difficult because we have this social welfare, especially in the European Union, and this creates a lot of tension for that. But if we start from that point of view, it will be quite interesting to see, that okay, if I have the right just to emigrate wherever I want, and I'm going to be a legal citizen, because how can we say a legal human being? Lucas was saying the guy is here. Yeah, his physical shape is there. So, well, I think from this starting point, it will be quite interesting. And do not forget, if we are going to make something in ERUA, just to develop this master program, do not forget to put economics, because economics is very important. This is something we have to study, how the third sector, this was another question raised by someone before, how the third sector, how the NGOs can be analyzed from an economic point of view. And we know, if we have been in this topic, we know that not any country in the world comply with the legal system. Nobody, the campgrounds are not the best places. where the rights are there without any violation of rights of the people there. But again, just let's move on, and it's not a question, it's just a comment. And thank you again for your presentation. But if you want to add something about this, I think it could be quite interesting just to develop such kind of programs, because it's true, that this is very interdisciplinary and it takes a lot of aspects that need to be studied. And thank you once again.
Thank you very much.
Absolutely agree with Juan Carlos. Economic is essential, but because even this is a win-win situation, it's absolutely necessary for us. It's better necessary for them, for the people who travel from one country to other. We are traveling into the European Union, or we are migrants into the European Union. So we need this economic view, of course, for the master or for any analyze about migration.
Thank you very much. What Juan Carlos raised is very important. He raised, for example, I think the issue of freedom of movement, and he called us to imagine a world that all people have the freedom to move. But we are in a such world right now, because for some people there is a freedom to move. If you have a Canadian or Swiss passport, you can move freely around the world. If you have a Bangladeshi passport, you cannot. You cannot even go to the nearby country. So the poorer you are, the label is migrant. The richer you are, the labels are other things like expats, professional mobiles, and many, many other categorizations. So there is around the world a lot of geographical movement. But what kind of geographical movement is characterized as migration is a different thing. And here, the politics is important, not economics. Economics is important, but the politics are equally important for this thing. So I think that this is a fruitful debate because it raises a lot of issues and we can think about them. I think we maybe have 5 minutes for another last question, because the debate is extremely interesting. Is anyone that wants to ask? Mrs. Toscu.
Yeah, thank you for this, and actually it's very interesting discussion about that. Recently, I had
Your camera, Katerina.
I have to. Okay, sorry, I'm a bit shy. Hello. So basically, recently I finished my master in anthropology, and we follow some very interesting discussion about mobility, human mobility, etc., regarding if it's if we have to say that it's migration or not. And I find very interesting the regimes of mobility that many academics are talking about that. And I think it's very crucial to study that, because many people, I think, that take logically, the characterization as migrants as something bad, has a connotation of bad meaning in the world. So I really embrace the effort of the academic community to renew the terminology regarding mobilities, illegal, legal, all the stuff. So what about the regimes of mobility? What do you think about that? This is something like we should adopt, even if it's not recognized politically, let's say. I don't know if we have time to discuss it, but I wanted to refer upon that. Thank you.
It's a very large issue. We don't have time really, but it's an issue that we don't expect to find a written document about this is our regime of mobility. But there are practices, actions, narratives that they form a specific regime of mobility in every era, I think, in my view. Professor Otova, yes.
Yeah, but you know, there's even this paradox, because actually European Union is based on mobility, on promoting mobility, and we have mobility when we speak about our own migration within the union, but we have migration and migrants when speaking about third country nationals and people coming towards the European Union. So even our own I'm convinced in European, and I do believe in the values of the European Union, but even in our own language and our own family, we have these double standards about what's mobility and what's migration.
Thank you very much. I think that this meeting today raised a lot of things, and we have to elaborate, all of us, and then discuss to each other. I wish to thank you all for participating in this meeting, and especially the two speakers for their illuminating talks, and all the participants for listening carefully and for participating in the debate. Thank you all very much. And of course, I wish to thank the organizers of this meeting, George, Ioannis, and
it's a whole team behind us. It's me, I'm the last one.
Thank you very much. No, you're not.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. See you.
Very nice to see you.
Bye.
Bye.